Despite all the hate Paddy got after his last appearance against Jared Gordon, former UFC double champion Daniel Cormier thinks fans expect a bit too much from him. Like most fighters and analysts, Cormier also thinks Paddy's rise at the UFC is comparable to McGregor's, but still has a long way to go. DC also recently weighed in on the controversial decisions and had some alarming concerns. Stay tuned for more on both sides. First up, experiencing the moment. Former UFC doubleweight champion and MMA analyst Daniel Cormier recently uploaded a short video to his YouTube channel and had a lot of interesting things to say about lightweight sensation Paddy Pimblett. He talked about how the fans have started to take fighting a bit too seriously and expect the next big fighter to become a champion immediately. DC takes all the entertainment away from the moment, when all we do is look ahead and see how quickly a fighter can become a UFC champion. And if you think about it, that's exactly how everyone looks at Paddy Pimblett. He's really charismatic and has the skill to get an entire arena fired up. But what's the point when all we're doing is looking ahead? People are always talking about how his rise at the UFC will be this and that, and how he's destined to become a champion someday. Don't get us wrong, we really want to see him lift the title, but we also want to be a part of his exciting journey. We want to see how he handles tough fights and ranked opponents instead of worrying about what'll happen if he loses. Everybody does not have to become a champion. We sometimes need to live in what we have right now. We sort of sat back and looked at things from a wider lens, and honestly speaking, DC is 100% correct. Everything surrounding Paddy these days either has something to do with a championship or his future. No one is enjoying the show he's putting on at the moment. Next, that feeling when the music hits. We've seen all the baddies fights, and we're sure you have too. Don't you just love that feeling when his music first hits and he walks out to the cage? It's amazing watching everyone get so fired up to see a 27-year-old sensation from Liverpool make his way to the octagon to put on a banger of a show. His fight against Jared might not have been that impressive, but his first 3 bouts were absolutely sensational. The way he dominated his opponents and kept the fans engaged the entire time was incredible. And while that doesn't seem like a lot, just imagine how difficult it must be. On the one hand, there is a man standing before you who is determined to do whatever it takes to emerge victorious. And then you have Paddy, who's not only evading his opponent, but making things exciting to ensure the admission price goes justified. Daniel Cormier thinks the Brit would actually do much better if people released the pressure of what he can become and enjoyed what he is. We already said this before, but every discussion, every conversation, and even every post on social media has something to do about what'll happen if he loses, or how long it'll take him to become a champion. Why isn't anyone appreciating what he's doing inside and outside the octagon? Like that legendary video he gave us when his dog pooped on someone's lawn. Absolutely hysterical. Let's give the Liverpudlian some space here, people. Who knows? He might just shock us even more. Moving on, the only difference. Paddy Pimblett is actively compared to the former double champion and perhaps the most famous UFC entertainer of all time, the one and only Conor McGregor. Believe it or not, he's actually been called the new version of the Irishman on multiple occasions because of his charismatic and electrifying personality. And while their rise at the UFC has been relatively similar, one major difference separates them. Now, we'll be clear off the bat. It does have to do with championships, but we think it's not a fair debate since Pimblett is still early in his career. Paddy seems to get a similar reception and reaction from the crowd. But if we compare his rise to the Irishman's, it's only fair we compare their performance inside the cage too, right? Conor McGregor won, and he won at a championship level. The way he dismantled his opponents was unlike anything we've ever seen. It didn't take him too long to wrap the belt around his waist, and the fact that he took it off some really tough guys like Jose Aldo makes it even more special. Now, Paddy has also done dominated his opponents. But as we said before, that last fight against Gordon wasn't too special. If he had knocked him out clean or something, his fame and success would have been amplified. But it was an average performance at the end of the day. And because of that average performance, DC thinks the fans need to lay him off and lower their expectations. Now for UFC 282. The fact that you are tuned into this video already means you know how controversial UFC 282 was for Paddy the Baddy. Fans, fighters, and analysts still think Jared Flash Gordon got robbed because Uncle Dana didn't want Paddy's hype to die down. The judges also got blasted for giving him the win via decision, and we're going to keep it real here. The fight could have gone either way. Jared could have easily walked out victorious from the cage, but we're guessing hype and momentum play a role when a fight is so close. Dana blasted Gordon for having a really terrible game strategy, while other fighters from the lightweight division talked about how they'd smoke Paddy if they ever got a chance. These reactions and emotions aren't new. We've seen all this happen multiple times, but we want you guys to think about this. Isn't this all good for Paddy? His name is in the headlines again. Fighters are calling him out left and right, and he's trending on social media. These are literally all the things a fighter dreams about, and lucky for Pimblett, he's living it. UFC 282 was controversial, no doubt about it. But is everyone trying to get their hands on the Liverpudlian now? Yep. Is he enjoying the attention? Heck yeah. But all that aside, did you know one of the judges who scored their fight is actually being investigated? Doug Crosby from Connecticut is being investigated for scoring a 45-50 in favor of the loser. But how's this relevant? Well, Crosby also sat as a judge in the Paddy-Jared fight. Following up, a little too much flying? Controversial judging is really starting to become a thing in the fight world, as we've seen a lot of outrageous decisions in recent times. You can't always rely on the good old never let the fight go to judges saying when fighters are so evenly matched these days, right? And out of all the judges, why is Doug's name being thrown around the most? Well, before judging the Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon fight at UFC 282, Doug was actually in the Mohegan Sun Arena for Bellator 289. He made a mind-boggling judgment when he scored the fight 45-50 in favor of the loser. Yep, you heard that right. While the other two judges were clear on the winner, Crosby scored it in his favor, and that too by such a wide difference. In fact, it was the first time a dissenting judge in favor of the loser recorded such a wide scorecard. He didn't exactly deviate at UFC 282 since his decision was aligned with the other two judges. But after hearing about the investigation, Daniel thinks it might have something to do with all the flying. He probably had to fly to judge Bellator 289 and then hop on a plane to Vegas the very next day to judge another fight, and that too in 2 different time zones. Isn't that a bit too much? It doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. DC actually thinks there's no way he's fit to judge fights if he's traveling 2 days in a row. Up next, the king of MMA journalism, Ariel Helwani, also had a lot to say about the judgment and didn't really make it an issue of different time zones. He's known for being raw in his analysis and reporting, and he did that while talking about Doug Crosby. Ariel thinks sometimes the judges score fights in favor of certain fighters to appease fight promoters. Now, he didn't exactly accuse Doug of doing this, but all he said was that it happens. UFC fans have a different name for it, and it's called Dana privilege. Ariel's comment is relevant because Dana not only promotes fights, but is also the owner of the promotion company. It almost feels like Daniel was trying to say the same thing, but he didn't want to create any drama. But Ariel is, well, he's Ariel. He doesn't hold back, and we think he has a point here. There are many ways to remedy this. and the first one is an investigation, but the second would be having more options. There's no point in overworking guys like Doug when things would be much easier if they had more judges to step up. Last but not least, what's next for Paddy? Before we sign off, let's quickly go over what's next for the lightweight superstar. Many fighters are calling him out, but it's still strange how none of the top guys have acknowledged his presence. Dana has been talking an awful lot about getting rid of his eating habits if he wants to be taken seriously, but whether Paddy is willing to make that sacrifice is still a question mark. If you ask us, we don't think he will be fighting someone from the top 5 anytime soon. From the top 10, maybe. Not from the top 5 though. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Is Daniel right about lowering our expectations from Paddy? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.